Before we start to move on to calls and everything else, I wanted to just get a general impression of what it's like as a first-time buyer. I mean, what kind of price ranges should we be looking at? How much does cost actually matter? What are some of the features? I mean, just quick as you can, what are some of the things that should be red flags for us as we're like going through this process?
Well, first off, I think that people need to be aware that there are a ton of scammers out there in
Mm.
the world of peddling sex dolls. Now, you will go on eBay and you will see $2,000 dolls being advertised for $600. And if that doesn't scare you, then maybe $400 will. Because when somebody shows me a Ferrari and says it's only going to cost you 2,000 on Craigslist, like alarm bells are going off in my
Hmm.
head. And those are the same alarm bells that people should be hearing when they go and see a really, really nice looking doll for under $1,000 that is life size, because it's very difficult to build a high quality doll for under $1,000 that is over 4'5", 4'7". And remember that the weight is a really, really important consideration here when you're talking about price range. One of the reasons I like this one brand in particular, AF Doll, is because they make some adult size dolls that are like 5'1" to like 5'7", 5'6", and these dolls are priced right around $1,200 to $1,400. And AF Doll is a really good brand because they give people the option of getting the hinge neck or paying less and get the hose neck. Or if they don't want to pay $50 for the hinged wrist, they could get wire wrists. So they can choose between downgraded features and upgraded features, where most manufacturers will make the person have the features that they sell. Look, it just comes like this. So do you want it or not? But AF Doll kind of gives them the ability to scale down the quality of the doll so they can afford it. And one of the things that people should be looking for when they get their first doll, I think under 1,000 is good,
Mm.
but I think maybe under 1,500, maybe under 1,600 is a little more realistic. And I try and tell guys, please don't buy the $3,000 or $4,000 as your first doll. I want you to
Yeah, well,
think
how
of
much does your like true Ferrari cost? I mean, I'm sure we can
yeah.
get into like diamond encrusted wildness. I mean, we are talking about sex and the internet, but realistically speaking, how much could you drop if you really, really just wanted to spend?
If you're going to try and buy the most expensive doll you can, you're going to be going to Real Doll, which is based in California,
Mhm.
sunny California. And Real Doll, they make these silicone dolls that start around $6,000 to $7,000.
Wow.
And then you can get a robotic version of those dolls that, like, the head moves around. It's like, hello, I'm Harmony. Want to have sex with me? And if you want one of those dolls, and actually it's not like that bad, I'm just joking, but the Harmony sex robot is like 13, maybe even 14,000 now. I haven't checked lately, but it'll cost you over 10 grand, so it's kind
Mm.
of like paying for a car. And Harmony actually has some features built into her, if I remember right, or if I'm more updated on the situation. They were building in like kind of consent features, and it's not like super hardcore. Like it's not like, like, oh, get off me if you don't like go through it. But it's kind of like they're looking into adding those features, which some people are not a fan of.
Mm.
And I guess I don't need to tell you why. I guess people feel like, hey, like I bought this doll, like she should like me. I shouldn't have to like prove myself. If I wanted that, I would go to the bar down the street. And so some people will say, oh, that sounds a little rapey. But really it's true. If you buy a car, you would hope that the car would let you drive it, you
Yeah,
know?
I don't ask a vibrator for consent before I turn it on. And, I think that's part of what makes all of this interesting because we are talking about the fantasy of a person, but not the actuality of one. And how dangerous is it to let ourselves indulge in these? I guess I can't even say consensual non-consent fantasies, because this is really just non-consent, but also from an object. There's definitely a lot there that we'll get into after the break, but this clearly brings up like some challenging and complicated questions.
Right. And there are going to be some people out there that say, well, these dolls train men to RAPE women, and these are just people who don't like sex dolls, or maybe they're not educated on the subject of sex dolls and they think that maybe it is for that. I know that there's some people who genuinely think that, but I think in the majority are the people who just hate the dolls, and they're just thinking of any reason, any excuse to ban the doll from being bought by these guys. And I think that the dolls themselves can be very, very therapeutic for people who have social anxiety. We've had a lot of customers that say, I feel very, very nervous and I have a lot of anxiety and I have trouble talking to real girls or talking to even the bros in the social situations. And these dolls just make me feel less anxious. They take away my social anxiety and they take away my loneliness and they make me feel good. So at the end of the night, when I go to watch my show, I have my doll next to me and I make us a nice bucket of popcorn and she holds the popcorn and I eat the popcorn out of the bucket and we watch the show together. And after that, I clean up everything and maybe I have sex with the doll, and then I go to cuddle her and hold her when I fall asleep. And that makes me feel like there's a presence of another human there. And it makes me feel comfortable and it makes me feel accepted, And I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah, no, that's certainly fair to say. I know that this brings up a lot of complex questions. Before I launch into it, Kara, did you have one?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, it's not really a question, but well, I did have a question too, but what you just described sounds to me, I think, perhaps a lot more relatable to people now after a couple of years of being in isolation, perhaps at home.
Sure.
You can come to appreciate, the need for that contact, whether it's with a living, breathing human being or something that simulates that. But I did actually have a question for you, Christy.
Yeah.
Uh, does your vibrator have a name?
Honestly, I am not organized enough and responsible enough to have ever established that point. I mean, we got too many characters in the field. I can't keep up with everybody.
I love it. I do when we come back around to the deeper topics, I do wanna talk more about how these dolls get named and
Hmm.
the whole thing that goes into that. I am fascinated. I am coming at you with the social science.
That's super cool.